Hey everybody, welcome back. The Bad Pennies are back. I'm Sho, and this is my friend Alan. And we got a good one for you right now.
Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah.
Coming off of talking about sex for the first time on the podcast.
Right, but that was the last episode. But now we're on this episode.
So if you're interested in what we had to say about sex, go see go look at the other one. That's okay, but we can pitch our previous podcast, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a good thing.
A little bit, yeah. So it's there.
It's there. Go see it. Go look at it. So what we're going to talk about is something that when I say it to men, they cringe, and when I say it to women, they go ape crazy. I mean, they just explode, which is what it means to be a good husband. And or when I tell the women talk about what it means to be a good wife, all kinds of really crazy thoughts come up.
Nobody wants to be told how to do their job. Right?
Well, we're not telling you how to do your job. What we're going to tell you is what's important about your job,
okay,
so that you can do a good job the way you do it. Right now, women thought that when I say something like it's important to be a good wife, they immediately think that I'm talking about being subservient and the man's in charge, and they got to be a Stepford wife or whatever. They got to be whatever you say, honey, and they got to be demure and all of that kind of stuff, and that, which is absolutely nuts. Right? That's not real life, and it's certainly not the times and the world that we're living in anymore, right? So, but when we talk about being a good husband, again, men think that they are being controlled by their wives, and that they don't have any room to move, and and it's going to emasculate them and whatever. So, and again, none of that. That's just nuts. Okay, but it's very interesting to see where all the brains start going crazy around that one little statement.
Okay,
what it means to be a good husband. So we're going to talk about that. Now, there are lots of things that are involved in being a good husband, but the most important thing is that you are that you have become very, very clear about who you are as a man, and you have developed yourself fully before you got involved into a long-term relationship.
Oh, that's a key point.
Right? And that you have done all of the work, and you've developed yourself, and that you've become very clear about who you are.
Know who you are before you get married to someone.
And so that you don't change, because when you start changing or compromising yourself, she doesn't know who she married. She starts to wonder, like, who the hell did I get married to? He was this way before, but now he's this way. Right. And then, when I do this, he goes this way. And, so one of the best things that you can do to be a good husband is to be very clear about yourself. And uncompromising when it comes to your core values.
Okay, very good.
The very basics of who you are, so that you're true to it.
Yeah.
You've developed your character. You know how to live as an honorable man.
Yeah.
You're trustworthy. You keep your word. You're committed, and none of that ever gets compromised. And this is before you even start dating a woman that you want to marry. All right?
Okay.
You develop all of this first.
Okay.
All right? Maybe we'll devote an episode to that process of developing yourself. But we have talked a lot about character. We talked a lot about leadership. So in the process of developing yourself as a leader, as an honorable man, a man that can be relied upon, a man who is dedicated and trustworthy, and we're not talking about having to be the president of your community or whatever. Maybe you aspire to something like that, but more importantly, that you aspire to be a good, powerful man. Knows himself. He knows himself, and he knows what he has to give. All right, it's not just about what he wants in life, but how he wants to give to life, how he wants to be of service to life. Because I will tell you that when you get into a long-term committed relationship, that entire relationship is about service. It is not about getting. It is no longer about getting what you want, especially if you have children. And there are those of you out there that have kids, you know that your life is really no longer yours.
Right.
Once you have kids, that's it. Stop worrying about getting stuff for yourself and just surrender to being of service. There will be great value in that. But if you hold on to the idea or the context that you should be getting, well, what about my needs? What do I want? I'm not fulfilled, all that kind of stuff. That's just crazy, right? And so you will feel that way. You will feel unfulfilled. You will be unsettled, and you will be prone to compromise. You will be prone to caving in on things that you know better. So doing things that you know you shouldn't do.
No, but right there, though,
you know better.
That's almost contradictory to what you said before about knowing who you are before you get married, and then you're saying compromise.
Well, okay, so we're going to talk about that because that's part of being a good husband.
Let's talk. Okay.
So because it's knowing once you've developed yourself fully, you know who you are, and you can't compromise that. It's not a lot of stuff, right? It's just a handful of stuff. It's a small handful of things that you know who you are completely, and you know that it would break you. It would literally break the essence of who you are as a man to compromise those things. And the beauty of that is that everything else is you can compromise. Everything else, because it doesn't matter.
As long as you know who you are, it's okay to make.
As long as you know who you are and what you cannot compromise, everything else you can compromise because it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter. And see, the problem that happens is that men get into a marriage and they make everything matter. They make everything matter, and they fight and argue on every little bitty thing. And all you're doing is causing difficulty and tension in the marriage and conflict. Marriages shouldn't have conflict. And conflict in the marriage is detrimental to the marriage. And so you don't want to be the source of conflict.
No.
Right? Now, a lot of men say, well, my wife, and I'm like, well, so
what did you do?
Yeah, exactly. So you engaged in it, right? She's trying to get a message across to you, and you don't like the way she's getting it across to you. And so you engage in that conflict as well, and all you do is take the marriage down. You take the relationship apart. She's going to do what she's going to do the best way she knows how to do it, and knowing the things that you are not going to give up allows you to give up everything else.
Okay. Because the relationship, as far as a marriage goes, once you get into the relationship, you're joining her marriage at that point.
In many ways, yeah, because as we talked about before, on the scale of things, relationship is when we talk to the women, they tell us when we ask them what's the most important thing to you, they tell us that relationship and relationships are the most important things in their lives.
Yeah.
And when we ask men about what's the most important things in their lives, they mention everything but relationship. If they do, it comes out like, really close to the bottom of the list. So relationship is so important to them that they pretty much take on all the aspects of it. So you don't have to worry so much about the aspects. Let her handle that. And when you do that, you also are being a good husband. Let her take care of those things and do what she does better than you. Do all those things that she does better than you. Right? Let her have that and help her. And when I say help her, what I mean is that you stay out of her way and you listen to her. And when she asks you stuff, you just tell her no problem.
Okay.
That's no problem. All right. Yeah. Okay. No problem. And then you do it. Because anything, so the next thing on the list, by the way, of being a good husband is that anytime that you commit something to her, you keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good husbands keep their word to their wives and their children. Oh, they keep their word all the time. Good men keep their word.
Yeah.
And would rather cut off their arm than not keep their word. And I'm saying that in a society that would rather not keep their word than anything else. Right? Because it seems to be like that. it's negotiable at best or at worst and completely breakable anytime that it's not convenient. But life isn't convenient, and living a committed, honorable, trustworthy, respectful, life is not convenient. It's not going to be convenient and easy. And a good man knows that and embraces that. In fact, he even often wears it like a medal, that he is fully surrendered to the idea that life isn't particularly easy for him. Okay. And so what?
So we talked about knowing who you are before you get into a relationship,
right? But
then being able to compromise everything else
that doesn't compromise that,
right?
You are.
And then you said we need to be givers in the relationship.
You need to be of service at all times.
Be of service. It's an outward thing,
right?
We talked about wearing it as a badge of honor.
Well, surrendering to that's being of service for sure, and then wearing the ability to when I say compromise all those other things, in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to hear what she's asking of you, right? You have to be able to really listen to her. Mm-hmm. Now, and I think that probably, arguably most of your effort in the relationship is listening. Most of your efforts are going to be spent listening to her and not fixing her, just listening. She doesn't want you to fix her, by the way. The women tell me this. They're like, please tell the men we don't want you to fix us. They tell me this over and over and over.
They just want to vocalize the problem.
They do not want us to fix them. They want us to listen. They want us to hear them and listen. They work out their problems this way. This is how they work out their problems, by talking. And but unfortunately, we like to fix things. We men are fixers by nature, right? So when she's throwing all these problems out, we're like trying to figure out how we can fix all this stuff for her. Well, that's another thing you have to let go. Because by letting go of that, it is another way of being a good husband, because it allows her to work through her problems and come up with solutions, and also know that you care, that you are in it with her.
Okay,
that you're in it with her. So, and that's my little segue to the next little piece of being a good husband,
which is
the bits and pieces that start to come out in the marriage over time that you don't like about each other. Look, there's no way that you're going to get two human beings together and stick them in a marriage over a long period of time, and they aren't going to start discovering that there are things about each other they don't like. Right?
That's realistic.
You got married because more than likely because there was a lot of stuff about each other that you did like or that worked for you. Right. I'm not sure it's so much about like, but it worked. Right. That there was a certain compatibility, and so which has really nothing to do with liking the same things and having common interests. But compatibility is important, and if not one of the most important things that keep marriages together is your compatibility. And the way to keep that compatibility going is that you're able to work stuff out when there is conflict, or when stuff comes out and behaviors that either of you don't like, that you're willing to work it out. And here's the thing about working it out: it actually contributes to the bond of the relationship, of the marriage. It contributes to the bond, and it contributes on our part. It lets them know that we're in it with them, that we're not passive in the marriage.
Okay.
That we're willing to work things through, and that they're not alone. Because remember when we talked earlier about the fact that relationship is more important to them than it is to us.
Right.
So they often feel alone in that. It makes them feel very alone that we're not because we're just like, bulls in a china shop, right? If we got into the relationship stuff, we make a mess. We make a whole mess of stuff.
Okay.
Right, and they know that inherently, but at the same time, by having to do so much of the heavy lifting when it comes to the relationship itself, they start to feel a little, alone, right? Which is a good time for them to hang out with their women, and talk about it, because that's where they get what they need to be able to carry on in the relationship. Maybe complain about you, or even not. Maybe just, I think some of the best ways the women communicate with each other is telling each other about how great the men in their lives are, not how terrible they are. The divorced women do that. Divorced women get together and talk about how terrible their husbands were, right? I'm not really sure that's a very positive way of being in life, but it happens, and maybe they're right. I don't know. Maybe their husbands were terrible, or maybe they just didn't manage it right.
Okay.
Maybe they weren't as engaged as they needed to be. So I don't think that in any of these situations where something fails, that it's one particular person's fault, unless there's something major, or a mental illness, or an addiction, or violence. Violence is a completely unacceptable thing.
Well, okay,
but we're talking about adult people who act like adults with each other. So they're not violent with each other, and they know what it means to take care of each other, and they know what it means to be a good partner, or at least they're learning how to be a good partner.
Right.
And then doing it.
Right.
Actually doing it, because remember, one of the elements is service.
Service.
It's about being in service.
And that's what I was going to say was, it takes two to tango.
It does.
Right? But in a classic tango, the man is supposed to lead, right? And the woman is supposed to show herself in the same process, right? She's supposed to flare her everything that she's got to show off who she is. Okay. But the man is the one who is supporting her and holding her and telling, we're going here, we're going there, and at the same time, but it is her dance. And it's the same thing in a marriage too.
It always is her dance.
You're both in there, Yeah. You have your part to play.
You have your part, and if you're not doing your part, and as I said earlier, the part about making her feel safe. It's our job. If we're going to be good husbands, it's our job to make sure that our wives feel safe. And therefore she is open to do all of the things. She's open to be. Women are tend to be very emotional, and because we tend not to be as emotional, often we get uncomfortable when they're being emotional, right? And I think that's a mistake, because even though that you don't understand it, you don't have to get uncomfortable with it. Right, but that's an easy place to go. I understand. Believe me, I've been there myself, where it just felt really uncomfortable when a woman was being very emotional. But there's another way to be with it, and it's just to let her have those emotions, to let her be with it, even though you don't understand it, and it seems, personally, it may seem like she's, being crazy, but she's not.
Yeah,
she's just expressing emotions, and
you can respond without reacting.
The way you respond is by being with it and giving her the space, holding the space for her to be safe and to have them. Now, I'm telling you this, and some of you may be going like, "What the hell is he saying? What? Where does he come up with this shit?" Right? So I'm going to tell you right now that where I came up with that was from the women telling me what they need over and over and over. They're very clear that when they get emotional, they just need the man in their life to make it safe for them to be that way. Okay. Right? To hold that space so they can be emotional until the emotions they're done processing their emotions or whatever. You do not have to process their emotions. You don't have to tell her to calm down.
Yeah.
They don't. In fact, that's one of the things they told me that really irritates them, is to say, "Oh, you're getting all emotional, honey. You need to calm down." No. And it's like, "What do you mean you calm down?" Well, I'll show you what emotions really are about, right? Yeah. So no, you just need to hold the space for her because you love her and care about her. And by holding that space and giving her the room to be who she is and to let those emotions come out, actually makes them feel loved. I'm not making this up, right? They have said again and again and again that kind of conduct on our part makes them feel loved. And don't you want that?
Right.
So it's like, isn't that something a good husband wants to actually produce?
Absolutely.
Is that his wife feels loved? And there's not a lot of ways that we can do that. I mean, we're actually kind of limited. So the amount of ways that we can make them feel loved.
Yes.
But there are some specifics, and that's one of them.
I have a man in my circle who tells me that, you know, his wife wants him to be more emotional and show his vulnerabilities to her.
Yes.
Now, I have had many mentors in my life tell me that you don't show your emotions to your woman.
Correct.
You show your emotions to your group of men.
Yes.
Your pack.
Yes.
That's where you express your emotions, but with your woman you need to be solid.
Oh.
So when you have these women that say, I need you to be more emotional, what are you supposed to do with that? Fake it?
No, of course not. You don't fake anything in your marriage. And be like, how do you feel if your wife was faking orgasms, right? I mean, you don't like that. Maybe in short term, back in the whole short term conversation, if they fake orgasms, fine, because who cares, right? But I know we're going to get letters on that one. He said, who cares? They're human beings too. But they're participatory.
As far as being a good husband.
Being a good husband.
That's what this topic of this episode is, being a good husband. And we're talking about, I'm asking the question about
her
a man
asking
showing
you
emotion.
to show your emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a problem with that. First place, she says it, but she doesn't really mean it.
If she sees your emotion, she's going to see it as weakness.
Exactly. And not only that, when you do express your emotions to her, she'll use them against you. And she doesn't want to. It's not like a conscious desire to bring you down, right?
Women don't forget anything.
They don't, and especially when it comes to stuff like that, because they have all of these skills, including all of the emotional skills that men generally don't have. So what she's asking you to do is act like a woman, and act like her,
right?
And our culture supports that. That we're equal and we need to be vulnerable with each other and all that kind of stuff. But that's just nuts, right? Because if that worked, then we wouldn't have a 60% divorce rate. Because in the days where men didn't express their emotions with women, the divorce rate was under 5%, single digits. Right? Now there were other reasons that contribute to that too, but that happened to be that was in the picture.
Okay.
That was part of the picture. So no, it doesn't help her. You need to make sure that she is clear how you feel. And because letting her know how you feel about something allows her to do what she does when it comes to the relationship, to take care of when she's the one really taking care of the relationship, right? So you want to communicate that, but expressing your emotions is not a good idea because now you've kind of started to act like her. and that's not what she's looking to a husband for. She's looking to a husband for safety.
Yeah.
And you do that, by taking care of her and making sure that she is safe when she is with you. That she is safe within that relationship to be who she is. And if you waver, she's no longer safe. Okay, if you ride that emotional roller coaster with her, and I've known a lot of men who have done it, and it crashes every single time. It crashes.
You got to bottle that up and then just call your boys.
Because it's two people riding an out of control roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody
has
somebody has to be the stable one,
and that's got to be you.
And that because it's not going to be them.
No. So there you go.
I mean,
how
as
to be
much
a good husband,
as I have known very level-headed, solid, stable women,
Yeah.
they were also very emotional, and they also wanted a man who was very, very stable, so that they could have, whenever they needed to,
get emotional,
they could be who they are.
Yeah, and then that man holds the space, like you said earlier.
Yeah. So
right on.
So that's being a good husband, and by doing that, she actually will trust you more, and she will feel loved by you. And when we talked earlier about the things that she, the things that you don't have to worry about, that you can compromise or whatever, as long as you're not compromising yourself, right? But in order to know what those things are, you have to listen.
Okay.
Listening to them makes them feel loved too. When you start to talk back, that just takes that away.
Yeah.
It takes that feeling of being loved and it throws it over your shoulder.
So listening, you respond when you listen, but you don't respond with complete sentences. You respond with words like "uh-huh."
I like "uh-huh."
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I hear ya.
Uh-huh. Really?
Got it.
Oh wow! Like that's how you listen.
Yeah. And well, that's how you listen on the outside. How you listen on the inside is you literally listen.
Yeah.
You listen to everything that she has to say.
Take notes.
And but it's the kind of notes that you take that's important. It's not just listening, to writing down or remembering everything she said. What you're looking for is the things that she says that will help you take care of her better. That will help you make her feel safer. That will contribute to the strength and the bond of the relationship.
I like that, Alan.
Because a lot of the work that we do as husbands is the work of deepening and strengthening the bond in the relationship. And it's that bond that actually, in the end, ultimately makes long-term committed relationships so powerful and lifelong, right?
Okay.
And worth all of the work, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work on both parts, and hopefully, down the road, that the depth of the bond and the intimacy that develops, and the love, by the way, love, people talk about love all the time, but I have heard through a number of sources, including some psychologists, that actual real love doesn't develop for years in a committed relationship. It actually takes a number of years. There are different numbers batted around. I've heard anywhere from 4 to 10.
Huh.
And in between. So,
I think it all depends on how you were growing up. And
it doesn't mean you don't care, but we're talking about a depth of bond that where real love starts to express itself. Not the I love your body, or I love your smile, or I love our sex, or whatever it is, right? It's actually the kind of love that comes from going through all of the ups and downs of life. Yeah. Right? And the bond that results.
But sometimes you choose, this is the person you want to go through the ups and downs of life with. And that to me is a sense of love in that regard too.
Well, it's a very strong statement. It's a very strong statement.
Okay.
And it's a very powerful and very strong statement that you've come to the conclusion that you want to go through all of that with this person.
Yeah.
And that you ultimately want to develop that very deep level of love that is actually real human love, right? That's not superficial, and it's the love that is a result of all of those ups and downs, and the commitment that carries you through. It's not just the ups and downs, is that because a lot of people get into the down part and the commitment goes out the window. You have to maintain the commitment, and maybe that is the last little piece of being a good husband.
Maintaining the commitment, being
committed, making sure that she understands that no matter what, you're committed. From the day that you said I do, until the day that you give your last breath, that you are committed, and that and you're there, and for her, and you're there in service for
that's part of the security that you're supposed to provide.
That is, and it is the commitment, and ultimately it is the commitment that makes marriage so valuable for men. It's the commitment itself, and knowing that you're the kind of man that actually can do that.
I got a topic for our next conversation.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Prenuptial agreements.
Oh, I actually just coached a woman to get a prenup.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So everybody, thank you for joining us again. I would like for you guys to go back and watch this episode again. There's a lot of information here. Go back, watch it again.
And especially if there were any parts of it that you disagreed with or that brought up stuff for you, yeah, definitely take a look at what that is.
Yeah, and type it in the comments. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let us know what's coming up for you, because it would greatly help our discussions.
Absolutely.
Here, and that we can tailor them to your needs, right? But I will tell you that I gave you everything I gave you today was true. So take it to heart if you can.
I like it. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Show.
All right, everybody, Bad Pennies will be back.
You will.